Okay. Good morning and welcome to Conscious Feminine Medicine Healing Transmissions. And the focus that I want to really bring in this morning is how can we connect and be aware on a moment-to-moment basis of this huge gift, this huge gift of transformation that we've been given as women, right? From really bringing in the new energy, the new consciousness, giving birth to that. And this is a huge mission, if you may, that we're all on, whether we're conscious or unconscious of it. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but how can we hold that awe-inspiring, mission that we have, but hold it in love and hold it in the absence of that whole duality of right and wrong. So not making others that are not aware of that, making them wrong, and or elevating ourselves. So how can we hold it in a way that is humble? How can we hold it in a way that's really, truly in alignment with the great love itself that we're bringing through and anchoring? Because that is the mission. And so the question becomes, how can we hold it in a way that is in alignment with that which we're bringing through? So it's like, yes, on one hand, where it's like, oh, we have the ability, if we connect to our divinity, and if we truly listen to where this moment is guiding us and what we're here to do on this, great awakening. And it's huge, it's the stuff of miracles. And can we do that and then yet hold it humbly, on the other hand, in a very detached way, and continue to purify our ego, continue to release even our thoughts of right and wrong, and really just be left with being a vessel for greater consciousness, for the divine love, for the divine feminine to come through, because that's what's changing the planet. That's what's healing the world. That's what's needed. And we're the vehicles. But we're only the vehicles to the degree that we are able to purify our emotional field, purify our mental field, purify the old wounding. Because if we're coming from a place of wounding and we're coming from a place of judgment, if we're coming from a right and wrong paradigm, we're still stuck in the old paradigm. So we have to change that paradigm within us. We have to move through, our own self-rejection, our own unworthiness, or our own thinking that, oh, we're here, to do this and we're greater than, or we have more value than. So we, it's both sides of that spectrum. We have to kind of clear both sides and land, transcend both of those views so that we can transcend that paradigm of right and wrong and move into oneness, move into unity. But we have to bring ourselves with, because as we just said, it's like, it's not, yes, the divine feminine is coming through and awakening here, but it's not separate from us. It's us, if we allow that. Because it's like, how do we feel our spiritual bodies in this plane? We have to feel it through our physical body. The divine feminine has to come through something, someone. It's like, what manifests that on the physical plane? It's not out there. We're the ones that manifest that or have that ability as women. We have that ability because we have that ability of transformation. It's a gift. It's our sacredness. And that ability of transformation, of transforming the unconscious, unmanifested consciousness to manifested consciousness, of non-form to form, right? Of the unseen to the seen, of the spiritual to the material. That alchemy happens within this vessel, this body, not just physical body. It happens physically when we give birth to a human being, for example, but it happens with all of the other subtle bodies as well. And it happens in our wombs. So it's a gift that we've been given, and it's a gift. And so the process of birthing, this new world, this new paradigm, is something that we have to actively do consciously. And we have to be willing to see within our own selves first, because we can't, was it Einstein, right? We can't solve a problem with the same consciousness that it's been created. So we can't solve, the climate change if we don't change the consciousness, because it's like you're still caught in that same thinking. You have to open up to something new. So you have to shift the consciousness in order to come up with something new. And so the change out there, as we've said this ad nauseum, happens within each one of us first. It has to, because if not, then we're still in the same paradigm of survival, and we're shifting from that survival reptilian brain to the what I'm calling orienting from joy, right? To the love, to the compassion, to the heart. You can also say we're shifting from just the mental, intellectual paradigm to the heart and soul, from masculine to feminine. And it's not the masculine in its divine harmonious pattern. It's really the masculine that's been distorted, because it's been without the feminine. So it's yang without yin, which becomes an overrunning fire, chaotic, where chaos then becomes something out of control. And that's what we're seeing in our world. So back to the aspect of bringing this, first acknowledging that, yes, this is when we really see the awe-inspiring capacity of what we're here to do. It's mind-blowing. And so we have to first, realize that, little old me, that feels like we're going crazy because, you look at the outer world and there's not a lot of reflection of this new paradigm that's been brewing inside of you, of your reality. There's not a lot of reflection because it's not there, because we're giving birth to something. And so if we're giving birth to it, it's not there yet. It's not there yet. And then we have to see where within ourselves are we still operating from the old paradigm. And then the shift happens when we're willing to look at that, where we're willing to go in and face our deepest fears and face our deepest grief and separation within ourselves, and transform those patterns, transform the wounds that we feel, the rage against the actual destruction that we're witnessing. We have to move through that, because we cannot give birth to a new paradigm when we're still feeling rage, because then that's an I'm better than you. So we have to at some point come to terms with that rage within us, come to terms with what's been done, come to terms with the injustice. And we have to move through that. We have to, yes, feel it, but then not get stuck there and want to make change from there, because then you're caught in that same pattern. We're not giving birth to the new paradigm, because you're not in the new paradigm within yourself. The new paradigm is that of that unconditional love, that compassion. Can we have compassion for those that appear that have wronged us? For those that have been repressing the feminine, repressing women, and causing all sorts of destruction for the last, for this last stage, 5,000-6,000 years. That's all. And can we, and in order to do that, in my experience, it's about opening it up even more. It's like, yes, on one level, it's like there's this whole domination series that has happened with, the masculine and being portrayed through the men. That's one level. And then the women that have come through that, and in their own defense, still using that masculine paradigm, right? It's like, well, I can do anything you can do, blah, blah, blah. So still repressing in their own way the feminine, the compassion, the love, so then there's that. But then if we open that up even more, if we open that up to something, a greater story, if you may, and we trust, which is where it gets a little tricky, but if we can trust something greater, the divine intelligence, that's kind of, we're all kind of dancing within that realm of the unknown, then we can kind of say, okay, well, perhaps the feminine has been underground, and there's a cycle, and there's something to be learned and something to be understood. And there's a reason, whether we understand it or not. And so then from that place, we can have some level of acceptance and unwind this place of injustice within us, and move into what we would traditionally call forgiveness, which is really just opening up that avenue of that unconditional love to come through even those that don't deserve it in our minds, because there's a greater story that we really don't know. Part of that greater story is that in this repression, well, two things I want to say here without deviating too much. First of all, if you follow the lunar cycles of the 26,000 year astrological cycle that we're in, there's a 26,000 year astrological cycle. And in that cycle, if you know an astrology chart, the moon starts, in the first house and goes all the way through the 12th house, right? If you want to track the moon cycle. And according to Demetra George, in the last, I forget how many years, it's in my book when I researched all of this. In the last 10, maybe 12 years, the moon has been in the 12th house, right? Moving through its stage of the 12th house in the last X amount of years, which has been this whole deconstruction, death phase. But it also talks about how the moon being in this 12th house also relates to the moon being hidden for all this time. So actually, I'm sorry, it's not the last 10 to 12 years. The last 10 to 12 years has been the change of it actually coming out of the 12th house. It's been the last 5,000, I think she brings it into 5,000 to 7,000 years, where it's been in that 12th house underworld, and the moon signifying the feminine, the overall feminine energy. We could see where, okay, so on this lunar trajectory, it was supposed to go into the underground. There is wisdom in the feminine being repressed, and perhaps the intellectuality of the masculine being highlighted. And yes, that has gotten us very far to some degree in the technology and the intellectuality and all of those concepts. However, if we follow that same trajectory, we see that now, the moon is coming out. It's ending that cycle, and it's ending that whole 12 houses of the zodiac, which is the end of that 26,000 year cycle, which most of the astrologers talked about in relationship to 2012. So again, we've talked about many cycles. There's many cycles, and we can, tune into different cycles, but I'm just bringing this up so that we can, have a little bit, kind of like open up our perspective so that we can have a little bit of acceptance with where we are at in the world. And then we can have in our hearts a little bit more openness to that acceptance and to that wisdom, and really bowing our hearts to the reality that we don't know. We don't know all of the details, and we may not ever know. However, what is important to know in this moment? What is our soul and our heart guiding us to move into in this moment? And how is that divine feminine moving through you? What is the guidance? And you're all here, so clearly you're all guided to bring something through that's different. You've been listening to that all your life, for most of you, right? And now is the time to come together, to acknowledge that which is different, which wants to be birthed through, which is, we call the divine feminine, the conscious feminine, and to align ourselves with that, which means, again, transforming ourselves completely, all of the wounding, all of the pain and suffering, and moving out of that paradigm of survival, of black and white, of duality, and into the orientation from oneness, from joy, from essence, from our soul. And then catching all of those places within us that are still, are still caught. And so when we realize that, it's about not judging ourselves when we're feeling the fear, when we're feeling the anger, when we're feeling the rage. It's like, oh, beautiful. Here it is. Let's bring that into union. Let's bring that into our oneness, our essence, right? Rather than, oh, we should be there already. Why am I feeling this? I should know better, blah, blah, blah. How am I supposed to bring love into the world? I'm not feeling love, all of that. So it's like really, on one level, really not leaving out our intellect, like really knowing and understanding the process so that we can accept these stages as they're moving through us, so that we could do the internal work, so that we can anchor that light on the planet. Because honestly, the end game is to give birth to that consciousness. However, it's not one big move out there like, oh, when I'm really ready, then that's something big's gonna happen, and then I'll be center stage. No, it's right now. What are you giving birth to today, right this moment? Because right now your consciousness is birthing something, is transmitting something to yourself and to others around you. That's how powerful you are. And we have to own that. We have to own that. We have to be willing to see that, but own that without, not from a place of separation, and not from an ego state. And I hesitate to say ego because, egos are very misconstrued, because we do need a sense of self to take responsibility for what we are doing as a person in this world on a physical level. So we do need a healthy sense of ego, but we need even a healthier sense of heart, of our soul, that we can know that this is coming through us at all moments, right? Our essence, and that it's kind of causing the ripples, the unseen ripples, into what we call the world. Even if we're in our bedroom, just thinking, what are we thinking? What are we bringing to the world? Because that energy is coming out and traveling. And so are we thinking, are we judging ourselves? Are we thinking hopelessness? Or are we like, oh, wow, this morning, beautiful morning, what an opportunity. And then maybe some hopelessness comes in. Oh, yeah, I see that. I hear that. Okay, I'm going to bring that in. Let me do 20 minutes in nature. Let me go breathe out there so that I could then embrace that hopelessness that I'm feeling, that sadness, that anger, and bring it into the oneness, into the light, into the joy. So it's this dark, we have to constantly go into our darkness, the place that we might feel chaos. Because if we don't do that work, then we're not giving birth to anything new. We're caught in it. So we have to own the fact that, wow, we have this amazing opportunity that is, not seen for ever, maybe, on this planet. Who can say? That's what they say. And yet not let it, as we would say, let it go to our heads. Hold it with like this sacredness. It's like, it's so sacred. It's almost unspeakable. But you know what you're doing. And you have to be aware. And hold your own self in that love. Yes, as a parent, we're reparenting ourselves, but holding it in a parent that is loving, that is nurturing, that is accepting, that brings the unconditional love and all of those pieces, that brings the feminine, that mother energy to you at all times, especially when you're in need, when you're not feeling it, when you're not feeling blissful. So that's what I wanted to say about that. I'm going to read something now I didn't get to read before. And then we're going to work with this within our wombs a little bit. Oh, this is not it. Okay. She moves me. So this is a recent poem that I wrote. She moves me. It has begun. The movement has begun. It is as if I have been sitting still for thousands of years. Now in my quiet, she appears like the sweet rhythm of my heartbeat. I can feel her rumbling through my being. Sometimes she is loud, ecstatically whirling, and sometimes she is soft, whispering like the night's breeze. Sometimes she dances joyfully like moonlight sparkling on the dark ocean. I listen, I follow. I follow to where she is guiding me next. I feel the aliveness in my being, ecstatically swaying to the inner tempo. I sit quietly in prayer, and she is here. She has been hidden all this time, or was I the one hiding? She has graced me with this initiation in my being, initiation of movement, ecstatic movement so sacred, birthed from stillness. She is movement. She is stillness. She moves me. And so just let yourself feel what that might feel like if you just opened up your heart, your soul, to this energy, to the Great Mother, to the conscious feminine within you. Now I'm going to read one more poem that I wrote that I feel might really transmit another piece to what we're speaking of today. The tide is turning. The energy has shifted. Oh, this is called A New Dance. The tide is turning. The energy has shifted. There is an exchange. There is movement, response. May seem subtle at first, but there is a power brewing, building up, ready to erupt. It speaks truth. It speaks hope. It speaks wisdom. It is light. It is a force moving through me, but moving into me as well. There is a reciprocity, a merging, an understanding, a softening, an ease, a sacred flow. My mind gets in the way with attempts at deciphering it, but there is no explanation. It is simply the turning of the tide. I feel it in my bones. I hear it in my heart. There is a new dance beginning, dancing me, a new wave carrying us all. Something new is being birthed. Something new is being birthed through me. But just let yourself really rest in that. For a few minutes, let yourself close your eyes and move even more inwardly. Becoming aware of your breath. Becoming aware of the movement in response to your breath. Letting the movement start to come through gently. Even if it's just the rise and fall of your breath. Just noticing the expansion of your inhale and the contraction of your exhale. And letting yourself drop even deeper into stillness. It's like your being knows where stillness is. You just have to allow. It's like riding the wave of trust, letting go of managing anything. Knowing that you're going to land exactly where you need to land. Trusting that the net is there for you to land in. And it's always there. You're swimming in it. You are it. You are that safety net. It's within you. That matrix is what you're created in, what you are. And so feeling your feet on the floor if you're sitting with your feet on the floor. Feeling the root on your chair or your surface, the root chakra, your sitting bones, the perineum. Letting yourself feel rooted. Pelvic floor. And then from those places and or the soles of your feet, seeing your energetic roots all the way into earth, into Mother Gaia Earth. Welcoming the conscious merging with her, feeling her love, and then returning her love, feeling your love towards her and her beauty and her abundance and her Kareem, the abundance of that creative source that is also within her, like that primordial creative source that she's also a form of, and that she is birthing with, right? So she births all of nature and continues this ongoing process of transformation and of birth that she has going on. And you have that ability too. In this gender, in this body. That's one of the sacred gifts of this body. In this lifetime. And so really feeling yourself rooted in her and merging with her through the soles of your feet and through your root chakra, through your perineum. And so we want to embrace some of the gifts that we've been given. In this physical body that we've been given, in this gender of being a woman. So one of them is the sacredness of our physical body and this embodiment on the form, realizing that your physical body is sacred. It's the vehicle. At the highest level, it's the vehicle in this lifetime that's birthing the new paradigm. And that's holding the frequencies of the new paradigm in your DNA in this lifetime. So that's at the highest level. And that means that also you have the ability, and it's the only way that you can give birth, to transform within you the old paradigm to the new paradigm, right? So to transform the collective and personal wounds, the wounds of your lineage, the ancestral wounds, and all that you decided to bring in to this lifetime that may or may not be unconscious within you, that you may or may not agree at all times consciously, but you have the ability. The divine, as the adage goes, does not give you more than you can handle. Your mind may not agree, But if you look deep in your heart, and you're willing to trust that great mother energy that you're swimming in, dancing in at all times, right? Because the other truth is that that is what we're birthing. And so we're not doing this alone. And we're also finding each other so that we can support and activate these codes within us consciously. So when we voice it, when we speak it, when we say me too, then we are activating that truth that has been lying dormant in our psyche. So we do that, we mirror that for each other, just like the moon is mirroring for us. We're mirroring that for each other. And that's an important part of the activation. So we are also an important catalyst for all of our sisters. It's another important role, gift that you've been given. The gift to catalyze. And that is true both ways, whether we are activating the fear, the doom and gloom, the pain, the suffering, or we're activating the unconditional love, the joy, the ecstatic bliss, the miracles, and the power of truth. So we hold that gift as well. And so let yourself feel that as I say that you are that you're born into this lifetime with that ability, if you so choose to say yes. You have to be willing to say yes. And how does that feel in your body? To know that you have all that power, sacred power, not power to control others, but power to access. Power to access and transform. Power of change through the alchemy, through the transmission of the highest source, of the highest frequency possible through your vessel, through this instrument, right? Your body is an instrument, a sacred instrument. And then thirdly, we have the power to transform, not just to act as support and catalysts for others and their divinity, and to awaken them to this true mission, but you have also the power to take everything in the past that's living within you and that has caused pain, which we call our conditioning, our wounding, from the ancestors that they have not been able to heal in a lineage, all of that. In this moment, you have the power to face that and to let it dissolve and bring it into union of that primordial essence that you carry. Now, that primordial essence is in everyone. However, as women, you have this ability, again, to transform. And using it in this way to heal the wounds that has been in your, that the women and the men in your family line have been experiencing up to this generation. This is also known as the golden age, right? So it's the age, but it's like that is already within you. And again, it's a matter of activating it. It's a matter of taking yourself seriously enough to know, wow, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm here to do. It's like, can you hear that call within you? And continue to move through the shame, the unworthiness, the fear, anger, the rage, the injustice, all of those patterns. They're mental, emotional, psycho-spiritual patterns that we have taken on. And many times they stop us because we believe them. But our responsibility is to keep moving through them and keep going into the underworld where they're all living in our psyche and bringing them into the remembrance of your truth, of who you are. And then always remembering that it's not you, your human, physical person. It's your divine nature, your consciousness of oneness that brings that into a greater alchemy that transforms. So we have to ask for help from our minds so that we don't get caught into thinking that we, the small we, the small I, is doing it and that we have power. And then we think we're better than, and then we think, we can make others do. And if they would only do this. No, it's a divine, perfect dance. Everything is dancing exactly as it needs to. Everything is playing a role. And it is your responsibility to step into your role, to awaken that DNA within you, to activate it, to start consciously lighting up that grid. And that involves all of your sisters that you feel connected with, whether you agree with them or not on, everything in life, doesn't matter. It's just the deep connection. They might have another role to play on things that you may or may not agree with. But yet, if you feel connected on the soul level, that they're part of that grid. And so we're here awakening that grid right now, that matrix. activating that conscious feminine and that grid within us. And saying yes to all of it, because whatever is coming up to our awareness, it's either two things. It's either we are in feeling the bliss and we're in that greater love, or it's something that's needing the love, which it's our responsibility to give it to that pattern or that conditioning or that wound, that place of suffering. So it's either one of the two. So there's no mistakes. And it's out. And it's forever moving, forever transforming, forever evolving, moving forward. That is the evolution of our feminine soul. Bringing those qualities of our soul that we have, to some degree identified with the feminine, that caring, that love, that holding, that container, that paradigm that we relate to this word, the feminine, so that we can actually speak and articulate it and bring it out of the darkness of our psyches and the underworld into center stage, right? You can think of it also as the yin qualities. That's what we're lighting up. That's what we're igniting within us and giving birth to it outside of us. With every thought, with every action, with every decision, with every relationship, whether it's a relationship with the tree in our garden or nature, the lake in front of our house, or our husbands or dogs or kitchens or foods that we eat. Everything is in relationship. And so all of that is going through that metamorphosis. If you really notice it. Yeah. So that, I've lost count, but that's another superpower that we have. And that we have a responsibility to. Why? Because we can see it, because we're aware of it. We can't hide from it. I once heard this saying a few years back, and it always stayed with me, because part of being in this reality, a lot of times you don't see it. Like we said, the world is not functioning from this reality that we carry so deeply in our soul, in our heart, and in our being. And so it's very easy to fall into disappointment. And so for me, that's been an ongoing pattern of the past that has taken a lot of my energy. And so I once heard someone say, in my disappointment of, meeting with people and going to groups and not finding what I so desperately needed, that group of talking about exactly what we're talking about here, of deep transformation, great awakening, great mother, etc. And then I heard somebody say that, if we don't see something in the world, the very fact that we're seeing it in ourselves and we're not seeing it in the world is indicative that we have a responsibility to bring it out into the world, and that it's not out into the world because we haven't brought it out yet. So instead of making ourselves wrong because, oh, we must be the ones that are wrong, we must be the ones that, because nobody else is talking about this. It's not the popular opinion. But if we actually started to trust ourselves just a little bit more, trust our intuition and trust what comes through us, especially if it's over and over and over. If it seems to be a pet peeve of why it's not out there or why you can't find it, it's because that's your stream. That's your vision. No one else can bring it out in that way. And that has been a great motivation to bringing out, the conscious feminine medicine teachings and all of this body of work in the last how many ever years been moving through since 2010. So it's 10 years. Yeah. And so now I invite you to really take that into your heart, into your soul. And it always really touches me and makes me want to cry. Because we feel we're so, unworthy, or we so easily make ourselves wrong and then live in that disappointment and go into hopelessness and kind of go down that rabbit hole when that is one of the woundings, one of the patterns that we're here to shift as women. That is the actual pattern. But many times we get caught in it. And we have to stay there and spin and until we're able to bring the love to our own hearts and let that too transform. And then have the courage to be different. Have the courage to not be the popular view or the popular saying or the popular action and really just with love, right? To step into that, bring that stream out into the world from love. It takes a lot of courage because we have that ingrained. It's one of the collective wounds of the feminine. We have that ingrained, and we all, in order to move into the paradigm of love and joy and into our primordial essence, we have to transform that pattern. So letting yourself just take notice here for the next few minutes of what we don't see in the world that saddens us, that disappoints us greatly in our hearts. And then bringing our hands to our womb, our left hand to our womb, and let's bring our right hand to our hearts, because now we've kind of triggered a little bit of that disappointment or sadness. Letting some of that, while we're grounded in our womb and rooted in Mother Earth and Gaia, letting us feel some of that old hurt, old pain, old disappointment, all of the times that we've made ourselves wrong, we've believed ourselves wrong, we've shamed ourselves, we've taken on the shame in our lineage. Maybe even growing up. And we didn't have the mirrors of those that were anchored in the unconditional love. And so, letting all of that in your heart, breathing into that, having compassion, opening the compassion, not just in the heart, but in the womb, in your sacral womb, in your left hand. Letting those two bridge to each other. Good. And then moving into your deep sacral womb. What is that which you can own, step into? What truth is there that wants to come through you so that you can give birth to that outside of yourself, into the world? We have to give birth of it within us first. We have to give birth to it within us first. So first acknowledging that which you have seen that has caused you such great disappointment in your heart, you're ready to realize that you have been given that gift, that vision. You're willing, to the degree that you're willing in this moment, and just be honest with yourself, that you're willing to bring that through. And try to take one stream of that. Let's bring it down to one stream. Maybe it's an action, maybe it's an attitude, maybe it's a belief. Try to stay away from, trying to own world peace. Saying, well, I don't see world peace. Bring it on. Yes. And let's break it down a little bit more. There's many fractals, frequencies to world peace. And you may have a few of those. There you go. And then really realizing, wow, like I'm supposed to bring that through. And then if your second thought is, I don't know how, that's fine. Don't let that stop you. That's actually perfect, because if you knew how, you would have done it. So it's the first step in any birthing process, is to step into that realm of not knowing, into the mystery, into that primordial essence, and letting that gestate in your womb. It's a seed. Even though it might feel like a big oak tree, because it's been you've been living with it in a distorted way for so long. wanting, getting angry because it's not out there. You no longer need to do that. This is part of taking your power back, owning your power. This is your sacred power. And so really just letting that gestate in your womb. And then maybe going in there every day and asking for help from your divine essence that's connected with primordial essence, oneness, great mother, God, divine source, whatever you want to call it. And then tuning in, listening. How do I give birth to this within myself? What needs to be transformed today? And that's the first process of giving birth to the new world, of giving birth to the new paradigm, of giving birth to your true self. It has to be rooted in that reality. It has to be rooted in the reality and the embodiment of that reality within you. And so rooting it is the first step. And there's more to follow. This is the first step. And even from here, you could just take the guidance from within every day, and it will inform you. What's the next piece, and the next piece, and the next piece? And let those pieces also include your personal transformation, because that's the only thing that's in the way of giving birth to that. So it's not about doing out there. That's the last step. It's about what else needs to transform here so that I can give birth to that. And that's a daily prayer. That's a daily meditation for you. If it resonates, and if you are ready to give birth and step into your true mission, the highest calling of all, which is very little to do with what you do in the world, with your career or job, because this is what infuses your actions in the outer world. So you could be teaching third grade and infusing this, or you could be an astronaut and infusing this. It's about that infusing, that transmission, that paradigm. It's like it's birthing a paradigm, a consciousness. So having said all of that, I'm going to bring us to a close. Let us bow our head womb, our heart womb, our sacral womb. In gratitude to the Great Mother, to the conscious feminine, to source, to oneness, to that which gives birth to all, including ourselves, including our thoughts, our words, our actions, and the world, and the earth, and all the planets, the moon, the oceans, the birds. And then bowing also to that light, that primordial essence within each one of us here in this group, and here, the ones that are reaching out in spirit, all the sisters that are reaching out in spirit, and to all those that will listen to this recording later. We celebrate, we acknowledge your light, your primordial essence, your truth. And may we see more of that. May we stand in it. May we have the courage to walk through the challenges that stand in the way of us bringing that through, giving birth to that. This is our birth process. And there's always this continual birth process. So there's more. If we want more, there's more. So thank you all. Many blessings. Until next time. Thank you. Peace.